Okay, this is it. Whenever I do this, I keep thinking it's like, you know, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. Anyway, hi everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Really, really nice. And I thought what I'd like to do for you, I'm known for my street scenes, I think, these back alleys. I hang around a lot of back alleys. I've gotten into some real seedy areas in Toronto. I'm still trying to find more. They keep turning them into condos, you know, if you stand still long enough in Toronto, you get renovated. So you have to be very, very quick and photograph. I'm out a lot on weekends trying to get these. Can you all see this? Can everybody see this? This is the painting. I finished it as best as I could for you. Can everybody see this, Karen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, good. All right, this is one of my back street alleys. This is in Leslieville. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's kind of in between the beach and downtown Toronto. And yes, the colors are a little bizarre, but then I like to push color. This is the reference, or one of them. And you can see that I have combined my own take on this. It is nothing like it. And it becomes very much my own. This is a recent one I've just taken. And this was last week. And I love this. This is in the Riverdale section. And I just wonder how much longer we're going to be able to go to neighborhoods before we get locked down. So I wanted to get as much stuff in as we could. What I did do, and I wasn't sure if there was going to be screen share, but obviously you people are really good at this. So I brought just 4 pictures just to demonstrate my technique and what I do. I start off with a fairly comprehensive drawing, and then I go into an underpainting. This one took place in the west end of Toronto in an area called the Junction. I don't know if you guys are familiar with any of these areas. They're a little off the beaten track, but quite interesting. And these back alleys are almost like little towns within towns, you know what I mean? So you have such a unique area, and I find them fascinating. Went ahead and I started painting this one. This is your underpainting. This is about 3/4 finished. And then I finish with this. And I start putting in shadow and detail. So this is how I work. This was a full-size sheet, and it's since been turned in and framed into a painting. I didn't enter it into the TWS because it was just too big, so I decided against it. Besides, it's framed, and it's very difficult to get pictures out of framed paintings, don't you think? So anyways, that's that. That's kind of what I do, and this is what we're going to start with. So I start off with a fairly comprehensive drawing. Now, a lot of artists today do not use, by the way, is my audio okay? Is it good? Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. A lot of artists start off with, I don't know, a very, very loose drawing. I like to have my main key points already done so I know exactly where I'm going. And if something is structural, for sure, I want to make sure that it's in here and that I have it accounted for. Otherwise, I tend to lose it. You know what I mean? So, by the way, I do take questions if you want to ask. There's no problem. So I'm going to start. Now, what I'm going to do is read out the colors and just show you the colors that I'm using. I thought that might be kind of interesting. I did have a piece of watercolor paper here somewhere, and now it has disappeared. Geez, I hate when that happens. All right, I'll use this. I have another piece of paper here. So far, any questions? No? Okay.
Hey, Karen, you're going to share the screen with her?
What's that, John?
Are we going to blow up the screen there so she can share it?
Oh, is it not working? I have it pinned. Isn't that...
If you share the screen, give her a share, she'll be able to have the whole screen.
Okay.
I have the whole screen.
It's already pinned, Karen.
Yeah, I thought so. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's already pinned.
So it was.
John, you need to go to the top and make a full screen or something for yourself.
It'll say speaker view. Speaker view.
Click on the speaker
Oh,
view.
or not? Do you want me to stop or?
Hold on. Let's just make sure. Okay, so anyone that's not seeing a large picture of Bonnie's work, go to the top right corner of your computer. There's a little icon that says view. Click on that and then click speaker view. If you're in gallery view, then you're going to see just whoever's talking at the time. Or you're going to see like everybody, and then it'll just kind of light up whoever's talking. But if you go to speaker view, then it should be a large picture of Bonnie's painting. Okay? Bonnie, go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. Okay, I'm starting off with a color that I absolutely love. It's an M gram color, and it's called Nancy Yellow. And I love this color. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So it's very bright yellow. It's almost acidy, but it's just magnificent. It's transparent. And then I'm going into Indian yellow. You can also use New Gamboge. And I'm going into another color called Bright Rose. Now, this is a Holbein color. I'm using a combination of Holbein, Winsor and Newton, M gram, except I went into Curry's lately, and I even went out in Whitby, and holy cow, they don't have anything. I don't know where their paints are. This is Bright Rose. This is a Holbein color. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Studio 6, but they have all these colors. So here is your Bright Rose. It's a variation on Permanent Rose. It's staining, but it's quite luminous. A little bit of bluish violet in there, as opposed to regular Permanent Rose, which is here, which is pure red, one of your primaries. So you can see the difference, right? Either one is good. I am also going into an alizarin crimson or bright violet. And tonight I thought I'd have some fun with you guys and show you the bright violet. So I'm using a bright rose and a bright violet. Now, what I did find out, and this is fascinating, is there's a brand of paint called PWC. Is anybody familiar with PWC? PWC? No? It's Shinhan. It's Korean. And DeSeres carries them. And they're wonderful. Very good price point. I highly recommend them. There's your bright violet. And now I'm going into three blues. First one is cobalt. And I am using a Holbein cobalt blue, which is one of my favorites. I'm using French ultramarine, and this is Daniel Smith. And I'm using Phthalo Blue red shade, Windsor Blue. Windsor and Phthalo are the same thing, and man, does that confuse my students. I do a lot of teaching. I'm teaching online presently, every day. I have a lot of classes. There, see? So that's pretty much it. And from this, I can get a whole combination of colors and luminosity. So a lot of my work is based on atmospheric conditions, atmospheric perspective. Naturally, I love painting in sunny weather where you get beautiful cast shadows. That's not always possible, so I go ahead and I also do some cloudy days. I'm experimenting with a lot of fog right now and trying to get into that. So I'm just going to start wetting this. This is my background. And I'm using a Hake brush. And I've probably painted every back alley in the east end of the city. I'm now working west. And I love street scenes. And I like city scenes, but I also do a lot of landscapes. So I'm kind of everywhere, you know? And one of the biggest questions that I'm asked is, how do you know which colors to use? You know what? I don't even know how to answer that because it's a feel thing. You kind of have to look at it and decide what it is that you want to say about something, what it is that you want to relay to your viewers, to yourself. And I'm going to go into just letting that sit for a few minutes. Oh my God, my masking fluid just stuck on that brush. Okay. And I'm going to wipe that away. Any questions so far? No? Okay. Cool. All right. Let that sit for about a minute. And I'm going to talk to you about putting in the sky, the most distant area. You don't see a lot of it in this photograph. I'm going to put some in anyway. And I'm going to start with some cobalt. I love your art association. I love your club, your group. You're wonderful people. You're amazing. I did a workshop when you were in the Holiday Inn, I think the last time. And I'm just going to get that into a wet and wet. Let that sit for a minute. And by the way, I have gouache for the end of the painting. I like working in gouache and watercolor. I don't know if you guys, whoever paints in watercolor, have ever combined it. It's no longer a transparent watercolor when you do that, but that's okay. That's fine. I'm going to start with some of the yellow. This is one of the most beautiful yellows I've ever seen. I just love this. And I think I bought the last tube in all of Curry's stores in Ontario because it is no longer, it's there. It's on back order. And I'm using Pebeo masking gum. And I'm just going to start getting in some of the light. And of course, my light is very, very interesting, this light. Take a look, you can see that your light is coming in from above, coming from the right toward the left. So I want to make sure that this is warmer. My shadow pattern, of course, is here. And I'm going to pick up some of the Indian yellow. Anyway, two new paints to try if you're doing watercolor are those bright violet and the bright rose. I think they're just wonderful. And my colors are created, and I teach this to my students, on my paper, not on my palette. I don't like dead color. So we start to work in toward these greens and so on, and I want to get more yellow in there. It's not quite strong enough. There's a lot of water on here too, you know. I just want to wait till that dries down just a bit. What a great fall, eh, this year. I got some really nice pictures. That's set up. My center of interest is this little white gouache. And I've just taken it off center. Put that in and let that sit for a few minutes. And I've got some more yellow up here. I'm using Fabriano Artistico, which I just love. It's fabulous paper. I don't know about you, but I found Arch is very expensive lately, and it's really gone up considerably. For those that are doing watercolor, If you're doing acrylic, I don't know if you're using arches or because you can do works on paper as well. And so far I'm getting in all these beautiful, beautiful greens. Yellows go in first, and then I'm going to get in these fantastic greens. So, cobalt blue. And I'm going to go right into French ultramarine. It's one of my favorite colors. I've got two little people in there. I'll put those in later. And I'm going to let that dry down just for a few minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to go and onto dry. Just let that sit for a minute. I've got some Indian yellow. Just want to get that in here. It's too wet. And I'm going to start getting into some reds. And one of the reds that I really like using, oh, this is a fabulous color. You'll love this. Instead of even your permanent rose or even bright rose, there's another color called Quinacridone Coral. Let me just show this to you. It's beautiful. Similar to Scarlet Lake. This is a Daniel Smith color, and it gives a great fall color. So it's an alternative. So I don't know if you guys are still using cadmiums. I don't use them, but it would be in between cadmium medium, cadmium light, red light, and cadmium medium. But it's totally transparent, being quinacridone. Okay, I'm gonna stop and leave that. That's part of my underpainting for my leaves. Believe it or not, if you take a look, you can see it in here. See? Okay, and then I'm going to start to layer some of the darks in later. All right, I'm going to go into the underpainting of some of this back here. And I have a dark red, I have a nice roof. And let's go into a little bit of Orleans, get some light in. Or your Nancy yellow, whichever one you're using. Whoops, that's green. How did that happen? Whoops. Ooh, don't want that. And I think I'm going to go into this coral again. The undertone in. And again, I'm starting off very light because I'm going to go much stronger later. And just get that in there. And where is my violet? A touch of this. This is bright violet. It's going to give me almost a quinacridone maroon color. If you've ever used that, it's nice. And some Indian yellow. This is going to darken much later, but I want to get that light in. The one thing you don't want to do in watercolor is lose that light. As you know, once you lose the light, you've lost the painting, right? And that's the big quest. How do we keep the light in? I'll tell you the truth, I don't know. You just keep going. Okay, I'm going to pick up some more bright rose. I normally would not use two of this warm reds, but I did tonight just to show you. I want to tie this together, which is a bad thing to do, is to disjoint a painting. There we are. And I'm going to just go into a small brush here, get that light in again. And of course, there's a roof here in both. All right, let that dry down. All righty. I've got this house on the far right, which is kind of a, I don't know, looks like it's part of a garage. It might be the main body of the house. I don't honestly remember. But I'm going to start off by creating some warm on here as well. I pretty much start off with my warms in any painting. And because I don't, as I said, I don't want to lose that light. Even in darks, there should be some variation in light. This is on dry paper. And I'm just blushing some of the yellow. And I'm going to go into some of the red and the blue. And I'm going into a little bit of bright rose. Be very careful with this color because it's wild. You just want a little bit. Use a bigger brush. And I'm going to just spill some cobalt onto this. So you have your yellow, your red, and your blue, and of course, white is a variation of that. It should work quite well, except I've mixed it together and it's all muddy. Trying to avoid that mud. Well, let's see what we can do. I mean, it might work, it might not, I don't know. Yeah, I'm getting a nice gray, which is exactly what I wanted. This is going to turn green if I don't get some red in there. So, there we are. Okay, I've got a spray bottle here, and very often I like to spray. I did have a spray bottle here. Uh-oh. Oh my, what happened to it? Well, I guess I'm not spraying it. It was here. Huh. Okay. And I'm going to get in some light back here as well. And this is almost on dry paper. So let's just go in and start pulling this together. All right. So I've got a pretty comprehensive underpainting. And that's going to be knocked down and it's going to start to get into some really interesting greens. A beautiful tree in here coming in. And of course I have all these stop signs. I have masked out 2 of them and there's a 3rd one here. And I'm going to put that in with charging 2 yellows together. And the other rim has some yellow on it. And there we are. I did that to earmark where that is. Okay. We're going to try and cover this as much as we can. I have another painting that I started halfway through, just in case. I don't know, how much time do you, when do you stop? I don't know. You have to tell me. Okay. Let's go into some of the greens back here and start working some of those in. I've got negatives and positives. I'm going to have to let this dry for a few minutes. Are there any questions? Now it's good. No? No questions? Okay. Well, I'm going to let this dry down just a touch. And this is my white house. And as you know, white isn't white. So we're just going to get into a little bit of color in here. And just flush that, and it's reflected light. So I'm going to go into a touch of yellow, a touch of red. And I have bright violet as my dark red, which is actually a violet. It's not really a violet at all. It's actually a red. If you look it up in the color guide, the bright violet in Holbein is in fact the red. Just pull that in and add some blue. And I'm adding cobalt. It's a 0 to a 1 value, but it gives you a little bit of color. Otherwise, it looks like you haven't finished the painting. Okay, I have to let this dry down for a few minutes, and wait till this is dry just a few more minutes, and I can start adding some greens. All right.
Bonnie, sorry, we didn't answer you when you asked. We usually finish around 8:30, so you've still, it's only 10 to 8 right now.
So 40 minutes.
Yeah, you have about 40 minutes. And just a reminder to everyone, you can ask questions. You just have to remember to unmute yourself. If you have anything to say, just click the little microphone and you can ask Bonnie a question.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. I'm cool with that. I'm still trying to teach my students to mute and unmute. They still don't get it, but anyway, it's all right. Eventually. Yeah, go ahead if you have anything, really.
Question.
Yes.
The diamond sign and all the other blue that you had on there before you started painting. What is that? Is that an acrylic or some other substance?
Oh, that's this stuff here. Here. Hebio, drawing gum.
Hebio drawing gum. Okay.
Really good.
Does it come in different colors?
No, just this color. And it's masking fluid, really. That's what it is.
You can't peel it off?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure you can. I'm going to peel it off. I'm going to show you.
Oh,
But I have to wait till it's dry.
right. I noticed you like to use brushes with plastic handles. Is that a preference?
Yes, I like these. This is a Curry's brush, and I have a whole set of these. I have a 1 inch, I have a 3/4 inch, I have a 1/2 inch, and I have a 1/4 inch.
Is that synthetic or organic?
No, they're all synthetic. I don't use sable brushes. I have them. I have a whole set of Winsor & Newton sable brushes, and I haven't used one in years. I find them too soft, and I don't like the softness. I need something to be holding, not something to be able to hold so much water. I need to be able to have some control over what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it has too much water, I'm going to end up with mud. So that's what I'm doing. But what I love doing is this allows me to control the water and to control the paint. Everybody has their own preference with brushes. I have a lot of students that only paint with round brushes. And I don't love round brushes. I like these. So this is what I do. Okay.
Question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, please.
Where is your camera situated?
Above.
Right. Interesting. Thank you.
Can you see me okay?
Yeah, you're quite visible. Can see your entire painting.
Good. Okay. What happened is my studios, I live in a condo and it's a fairly large one, but I have a solarium and that's where my studio is, and it's floor to ceiling windows, beautiful light. And that's terrific. But when I started Zooming, I have I have a PC and it's on my desk. And I didn't know how to move it. And I spoke to a couple of colleagues and they said, no, you will start Zooming in your office. And I said, I can't paint in my office. They said, why not? And I said, I don't know, I guess I could. Never thought about it. They said, well, you've never done it before, so let's start with that. Got set up and I took a whole bunch of modules on how to do this. And here we are. But I think everybody's kind of in the same boat. You have to adapt, you know? And being in a condo with a lot of really good light is good. And I was very, very lucky because the people that were teaching me are professors at Humber College, and they teach media production, and they offered to teach this full course. It was 10 weeks. Boy, is it complicated. Holy cow. Anyway, here we are. I'm just going to go in with the tree trunk while I'm talking. So that's what happened. And I started working, and I realized I'm going to need a camera. I was using my iPhone to start with, believe it or not. And then I used my PC, the big screen, for what I can see, so I can watch myself. You can see me on my iPhone, actually. And I have a camera and a mic above me. It's like a boom. You know what a boom is, right? Okay, so that's how it works. French ultramarine. And I'm going to start getting into some grays as soon as this starts drying. And some of the bright violet. Now I'm going a little faster than I normally would. I want this to dry down. And I'm going to start getting into some really nice greens. And I'm producing some grays, first grays. All right, let's let that dry down. And this still has to dry. This is quite wet. So I've got a little bit of color on here, and I'm going to start working down into this area. So this is the concrete. And one of my biggest concerns with concrete is really what color is concrete? Well, it's a neutral. If you take a look at this, it's quite warm. It's almost got a pinky cast. So I'm going to go into some yellows, a little bit of red, and then gray it. But I really wish I could find my spray bottle, because that's, oh, there it is. I found it. I find the spray bottle a really big help in modeling things, so it's quite nice. So I'm going to go on to totally dry paper and go in with a little bit of Indian yellow. Whoops. Yes. Now you can use new gamboge as well. And I'm just going to start scrubbing this right in. I'm going to get some nice concrete here. This around. This is still quite wet, you know. I want to get this dry enough to get the darks in.
I'd like to excuse a certain thing.
I'm sorry?
I would recommend to members before they go on a Zoom demo, such as myself, that they not consume practically half a pan of brownies before they sit down for the, I mean, probably not recommended, especially if you have a stomach condition. So, excuse me, everybody. Excuse me. They were very good, but excuse me about that.
A little bit of red. Let's bring it up. I'm not putting in the cast shadows yet. I'm just putting in the underpainting. And a little bit of cobalt. Cobalt's a great blue because it's neutral. And there's my gray, see? And yet it's light enough. That's going to dry beautifully. And it's already granulating. Okay, and I'm going to just go through this and take a look at where the grasses are and start putting in some greens. Starting back here and working up. Okay, so now I'm going into a pointed brush. This is a Robert Simmons pointed brush. I love this brush. I bought this in New York and I think I paid $8.90 for it. And here they're about 40. So, but that was then, I don't know. I went to a place called Blix. And some Oreo in yellow. Just let that bleed a bit, guys. It doesn't really matter what it does, you know. And let's get some nice yellow on there and highlight it. This might be too wet. Want some of the color to spill as well. And this is in perspective. So we've got linear and we have atmospheric. Now I've got to start putting in some greens on this side. Okay, and this is on totally dry paper. Let that dry down. Okay, by the way, I'm going to just give this a quick beautiful. See, that models this. I don't know if you can see it, but there it is. All right. And you're getting some really, really beautiful sort of granulation through here. And I'm going to put in a little bit of French ultramarine just before it dries. Because French ultramarine is opaque, you have to be very careful about the timing because if it goes in dry, it's not really good. Going to cut this down. Explore this so that I get actually blossoms. You know, when you want them, you don't get them. Okay. And here. All right, French ultramarine. Work some of that in from the bottom up. And that's going to granulate too, so that's kind of nice. And I'm going to have to dry this stuff down just for a few minutes after. Switch to this brush. This is better. I've been wearing out my brushes. French ultramarine, a little bit of Indian yellow in there too, makes really nice green, I think. I have not used phthalo at this point. I generally don't use phthalo blue until toward the end of the painting. And then I start getting into some of the more intense color. So I layer. I am not a fast painter. I'm fairly slow, in fact. I know other artists that can finish a painting before I even get my stuff out. I'm just not one of them. And I prefer my greens to be mixed as part of the painting for various reasons. You don't tie a painting together with greens unless they are made from the blues and the yellows that are already in the painting, right? So I'm going to add just a touch of phthalo right now because you never know. Time has a way of running away. Just want to get some greens in here, you know. Some in here. Blues. Okay. We'll let that dry down just a bit. Make room for some bright color. Let that dry, eh? Okay. All right, so this is fairly dry. I can start going into some greens up here and start tying it together a bit. Cobalt, and I love double loading with the phthalo blue. Beautiful. Strong combination. A little bit of that yellow. Let's start getting into some greens. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead.
I have a question, Bonnie.
Please go ahead.
What determines whether a paint granulates? Is it the paint or is it the amount of water on the paper?
No, it's the paint. Granulation occurs when you have paint that is ground in very large molecules. So, for instance, there is a color called, well, I don't know, do you paint in watercolor or acrylic?
No, neither. Printmaking, actually.
Okay. Well, if you were a watercolorist, there's one color called burnt sienna. You know burnt sienna. You've heard
Yeah.
of burnt, yeah. Burnt sienna is a very opaque color. There's a new color. It's not really new. It's the same color. And a couple of companies have started using it, and it's called transparent red oxide.
Yes.
It's identical to burnt sienna. It's got the same pigment numbers.
Yeah.
It's blinded very fine, almost like a dust. And so it becomes transparent. The
Right.
more opaque a paint is, the larger the molecules. The smaller the molecules, the more transparent the paint is. Does that help?
Yep.
And some of that bright violet in here is going to start to give me some shadow pattern. This is quite wet, folks. To let that dry down. Go back up here though. Generally speaking, I would say 90% of my paintings are transparent pigments. I use transparent pigments, 90%. I still use raw sienna, I still use earth colors. And so for me, using colors like Naples yellow and yellow ochre, I don't generally use them. But I mean, I have, it's just I don't like them. I really prefer using transparents. I like layering. I like to see luminosity in my work. And that's what I think is one of my strongest points. So for me to use an opaque color into a one-shot deal is not something that works well for me. I mean, everybody's different, right? Here is your Phthalo Blue. Now, this is a deadly color. You got to be careful with this one because this can destroy your painting faster than anything. This is non-forgiving. It's extremely, extremely difficult to remove. Actually, this is turning out quite nice. It's modeling beautifully. Get some more yellows in there later. And I'm just going to give this a spray as well. And it granulates even more. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And get some red in there too after. And I want to get some nice greens setting up. These are negatives. So I'm working negatively right now. Bits of dark, bits of light. And these greens are starting to come out. That's going to have to be much, much darker. And I'm just going to bring this up. One of the first paintings I ever did with these street scenes was accepted by the Canadian Society of Painters and Watercolor. I'm an elected member of that in the SCA. And they all took my street scenes. I don't know. It was really, really strange. I said, out of all the landscapes I had and everything, that's what they chose because you had to submit 5 in those days. I don't know how it is today. I'm sure some of you are members there, but it's still the same thing with the SCA. And I noticed that in a lot of artists with their street scenes and so on, or cityscapes, urban landscapes is another word for them, that color was the big thing. That's the thing that really sort of drew me toward it, you know. I've got to get some of that red in here to tie it together because otherwise it's disjointed. So let's put in some of that bright rose or the Quinacridone Coral, which is that Daniel Smith color. You use one or the other. Now this is slightly cool. So if I were to go into this one and start with this is what I mean. You have to be able to choose where you're going to put some of these nice ones. See, I have it in this one. You can see it. Right? So it's underneath the darks. And I think the best thing to do, one of the best things to do is to look at the pigment numbers on your tube of paint. And if you want consistency in brands and say one company doesn't have it, but maybe another one does, check the brands, check the pigment numbers on the brand of paint. It's on every tube, whether it's acrylic or oil or whatever, gouache, it's all the same. It has pigment numbers. That has to be much darker. Let's go into this. This is a bright violet, a phthalo blue. Get a little bright rose in there. Very, very dark violet. And then you add your oleolin or your fancy yellow, you can get black. So it's a process of building, and it works quite well. You should let it dry down. And I'm going to go negatively around the leaves. And I'm going to put some more in there later. Okay, that should dry eventually. And if you take a look at some of the darks in here, there are some really nice ones as they start to set up the house. But this is mixing, so I don't want to get too dark too fast, otherwise I'm going to lose all of that light again, you know? Let's get in on that. Okay, let's get into some of the greens again. Those beautiful greens. I find green a challenge. I don't know about you, but I have always found green a challenge in a painting. How do you get in those really nice greens? It's work. You have to really look at them. And usually with your blues and reds, or your blues and yellows rather, you should be able to make a fair number of different greens. I have some nice negatives right in here. There's that fancy yellow again. And here is your phthalo blue. Phthalo blue again, some yellow. And this time I can even add some of that bright violet and you get a really nice dark. So if you have any questions, please. Very wet. Okay. Anybody? No?
I can't hear you.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, sometimes you fade out.
No, I'm right here. Can you hear me? I'm right near the microphone.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Did you have a question? Okay, so that's starting to come up. And remember how that looks sort of gray and sort of dingy? Look at it now, it's glowing. And I'm gonna put some violet in there later on and so on. Well, not too much later, I don't have that much time. But anyway, what I can do is put in this, which is part of the roof.
Bonnie,
Yes.
what is the secret to keeping your grouping of trees and leaves not turning to mud? Because you keep adding and adding, and when I do it, I get mud.
Have to let it dry. Normally, I would go in, use a hair dryer and just dry it down right about now. But I don't have the luxury of time, so I'm not going to. I did bring a second one. Put it down and leave it alone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't go
So
in.
it's not, it's the water content.
Yeah, and notice that my paint is thin but fresh. So it's very, very fresh.
Yes, yes.
And freshness of the paint means you don't have to use a lot of water, therefore you're not getting a lot of gray. Okay?
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
No, the colors are not muddy. I know. You have to gauge how much water you're using, as with any watercolor. I think at one point I was supposed to do a watercolor workshop for you. Oshawa, yeah, I was. Lady called me, I forgot her name. Very nice.
That probably would have been Sandy.
Sandy! Yes.
Bonnie, I just want to give you a heads up. It's 20 after 8.
Okay. Well, I won't finish it. That's why I brought the finished piece. But I think you're starting to see how this builds, yeah?
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Thank you. All right, let's just get in a little more shadow in here. Okay, so this is thicker now, you see that? And the heaviness won't allow the mud, but you do have to let this, I would not go into this at this point. What I did want to show you is this roof line. I don't know if I'm going to have time. All right, don't worry about it. If I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. But anytime you want me back, if I do come back, I can bring it and show it to you at that point. But you can record the finished one. You have it, right? If you haven't recorded it, I'll take it out in about a minute.
Sorry, what was that? What did you just ask?
I have the finished one.
Okay. And then did you say something about the recording?
Yeah, you can put that into your recording.
Okay, sorry. You kind of got muffled a little bit and I didn't know.
I'm looking down. I'm trying to work fast. Whoa. I use a set square for lines. I cannot draw a straight line, really, without a ruler or a set square or whatever. I have to have this. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's just the way I am. Yeah, these greens are terrific. This is a good combination. There are others. One of my favorites, of course, is Antwerp Blue, Raw Sienna. And I'm using more and more of this transparent red oxide. For you watercolorists out there, do get a tube of it. You'll love it. M. Graham makes it. Core, QOR, they make it. The other people that make it are Who else makes transparent? M. Graham, yes. And oh, there's one other company downtown. Does anybody go to Above Ground ever? Downtown Toronto. It's near the AGO. And Above Ground carries a brand of paint called Turner. And their stuff's pretty good. It's artist quality, it's very reasonably priced. I don't think it's as good as Daniel Smith or Sommelier, but it's pretty good.
They have an awful lot of supplies down there at Above Ground. It's a really good place to go.
Store. I like the flagship store, the one on McCall. That's the best.
Yeah, it has a lot of stuff. It's really well stocked.
Very well stocked.
And another place to go is the Desirs on College Street, which has an awful lot of stuff too.
Well, I went to the Curry's last Saturday, the one on the flagship store. You know, they closed some stores. I don't know if you know that.
Is that the one in Mississauga you're talking about?
No, I went to the one downtown near the CAMH Hospital on Queen Street West. And that's their flagship store. And I gotta tell you something, I was really upset. They were out of so much stuff, it was unbelievable. And that's like their flagship store, you know?
They've been really cleaned out because of the pandemic, especially the store in Whitby.
They didn't even have any paper. This is your bright violet.
Quick question regarding your masking fluid. How do you apply it at the beginning? Thank you.
Oh, very easy. That's running. It's too wet. I see these brush handles. Look. Here. Like this. That's one of the reasons, and I tell my students to buy these brushes too. They're so versatile. I just use this. And you can draw with it. Any sharp instrument. I don't like using brushes with them. I'm never sure if it's all going to come out. They say it will if you soak it, but who the heck knows? I like the fine points on some of these brushes, and I find that it gets daunting. Also, this stuff is pretty harsh. It's ammonia and latex, so it's got a horrible odor. I'd be very careful with this. So I generally just use my brush handles. You know what else you can use? A palette knife. That works. Start tying this together.
Do you prefer a flexible palette as opposed to a hard palette?
Want to see my palette?
Yeah.
I know you think it's hilarious, but I do get a lot of clean color out of this. This is a $9 palette. I bought at Curry's, and it holds pretty much everything. Now I have the Quiller palette. I have the Robert E. Woods palette. I have the new, those new ones. What are they called? They're also by Shinhan. I forgot, Magello from the States. They're wonderful. And I still prefer this. I saw one of the most incredible artists working when I was with the IWS, and I was, it was part of the CSPWC. And the guy's name is Louis Yi. I think he's probably the world's top watercolorist. And you should have seen his palette. It was horrible. Mine looks pristine compared to his. And the stuff that this guy produces is like brilliant. It's unbelievable.
For the masking, you mentioned palette knife. Do you prefer a flexible palette knife as opposed to a palette knife that's not flexible?
No, I just use a regular palette knife, like a metal.
Uh-huh. What size palette knife is your favorite?
Oh, I don't even have it here. It's just a medium. Just a medium.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
In recent months, do you work in other media besides watercolor?
No, I work in watercolor and I work with pen and ink in watercolor. And I also work with gouache in watercolor, which I was going to do, but I won't have time tonight. Yeah, I work in some mixed medium, but no, I like working in watercolor. That's my thing. That's what I do. And I have never had the excitement that I still get with watercolor. Never with anything else. Yes, I have painted. I have corporate paintings that have been accepted in corporate collections. I have painted in acrylic and in oil, but watercolor is what gives me the buzz still.
Well, you mentioned maybe combination with colored inks, did you say?
Yes, I do colored ink sometimes. Absolutely. I love colored ink.
Combination with,
I'm sorry?
if you do an ink painting, do you also put on the same painting watercolor?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. What do you mean?
On one painting,
Yes.
would you use ink and watercolor?
Oh, absolutely. Of course. I've done a whole series of swamp paintings with fogs, beautiful stuff, and atmospheric stuff with whatchamacallits, what are they called? Fog. Hello, my mind is going. Fog. I've done fog paintings with gouache, watercolor and ink. I have also used plate Bristol, which is, or Bristol plate as you call it, and have done a whole series of paintings with basically you take Bristol plate, which is a drawing paper, and cover it with gouache and then paint on top of it. You get some incredible effects with that. So all of these things are never discounted. They're all there. Yeah.
Well, just to finish my question, that's Gouch or something like that, gouache, right?
Yes, it's designed.
And it's not the same as watercolor. It is an opaque tint, right?
No, it is not the same as watercolor. Design and gouache is Gouache. This is it, Windsor and Newton. I only use white.
You only use white.
Yes.
Oh.
And it gives some really incredible effects. I have a painting here. It's not part of what I'm doing, but I can show you. Do with it. Oh, here it is. Half finished. Okay, this is gouache and watercolor. All right, so there it is. There's a barn in your neck of the woods, actually.
So that painting that you said you have the gouache, so you only use the white, so just the white parts near the top of the barn and stuff like that. That's just the
Yeah,
gouache.
I'd highlight it with white.
Okay, so yeah.
If I had more time, I would show you. Now, gouache comes in all the colors of paint. It comes in watercolor colors, like it comes in cobalt, comes in French ultramarine, permanent rose, alizarin, all of those colors. But the problem is, it is opaque. It's designer color. A lot of graphic artists use it. It is opaque. It's got an acrylic base, but a water-soluble acrylic base, which is why when you're using it, you can't put it in the same palette as your watercolor, because you'll ruin it. It has to be in a separate base, in a separate palette, you know? So that's what I would do. All right, let's just do a little bit of this in here.
Okay, Bonnie, so it is 8:30 now.
All right, I'm stopping. Okay.
Listen, hold on. I'm okay if you want to have a few more minutes. I don't know how everyone else feels about staying.
No, I'm fine. That's fine. I'll put out the finished one and put it right here for you. And you can take a picture of it. So you can see where I'm going. How's that?
That's beautiful.
Thank you. So you can see there'd be some spattering after and then the shadows. See, this is gouache right here. Look, you can see it. And with the people and so on. And there it is.
That's great. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any more questions for Bonnie? No. All right. Well, thank you again, Bonnie. This was really great.
Having me.
And thank you everyone for coming. And I just want to say quickly, thank you to Riza. He did announce that this would be the last time that he would be acting as our programs director. He's still going to be a member of the OAA, but he's chosen to end his time on the executive committee, and we are going to miss him very much. He's done a great job. He's brought in some wonderful artists to do the demonstrations for us at these meetings, and especially with COVID going on, we know everything's been different for everyone and a little more difficult. So Riza has done an excellent job. So thank you, Riza. We'll miss you on the executive committee, but hopefully we'll still see you around. And thanks again, Bonnie. And if nobody has any other questions or comments, then
Oh, can I talk to you, Karen, just for a sec before you go?
sure.
Yeah, okay. I'll just wait till everybody's gone. That's all.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for
Thank
watching.
you, Bonnie.
For
You've
you.
done a great job.
Oh, thank
Have a
you.
good night.
And you too, Riza. Thank you so much for all your help. Okay.